Culver historian, local historian, and former editor of the Culver Citizen for some years, newspaper, as well as museum and archives manager for Culver Acadmies here on Lake Maxinkuckee. So behind me is the Bernard Vonnegut home. This is one of a row of three Vonnegut-owned houses, really three of several that were in the Vonnegut family and extended family here on Lake Maxinkuckee's East Shore. Of those, Franklin's is the northernmost, and we're situated here at the Clemens Vonnegut Jr. home, which is the southernmost of the three. The house behind me is the house that Kurt Vonnegut Jr. would have really thought of mostly as home, if you will, although I think all of these houses, it's safe to say, were home for him. And in fact, the larger Vonnegut community and East Shore Lake Maxinkuckee community were also part of his kind of community center and home. This space meant enough to him that, among other things, after he married his first wife, just after World War II, he asked the then current owner if he and his wife could honeymoon at this property right behind me. I don't know if it's showing up in this shot, but there's a platform. It's kind of iconic on the lake here that Kurt and his family spent many, many hours sitting on and looking out over the lake. That's a spot that he credits as the place where tralfamadore was invented in his young imagination, which of course becomes one of the central places in Slaughterhouse-Five, his great novel. And so he wrote a letter calling Lake Maxinkuckee his Aegean Sea. And that's an interesting point in Kurt's work, that he was, a lot of authors don't do this, but he repeatedly referenced back to Culver, in particular Lake Maxinkuckee, in his, both in his fiction writing and during interviews that he did in later years, talking about its impact on him. One of the most prominent places we read that is in an interview in Architectural Digest magazine. Of course, Kurt comes from a family of renowned architects in Indianapolis, and so they're interviewing Kurt. In fact, the title of the article is "The Lake," and he talks about being, in his words, confident little Marco Polo, knowing that no matter how far he walked around the lakeshore, he would always find his way home because it was a closed loop. And in various interviews, including his last one, he talks about the impact of the culture and the ethos of Lake Maxinkuckee here on his work. So the lake is a place that, the railroads ran here from many points south, particularly Indianapolis and other areas. And so a lot of prominent folks came here not simply just to be, but they wanted a kind of rustic outdoor experience. So Kurt talks about that kind of, he calls it his Eden Lost. And he refers both to the natural beauty, which was also kind of dovetailed with the philosophy of the German, as they called them, 49ers, these German immigrants of the mid-1800s who valued health and fitness and outdoor fresh air and all that. But also Kurt talks about the community. He calls it heaven. So he uses this almost religious language to describe the vibe, the ethos of partly having a community here that was many relatives, but I don't know how much he refers to this. There's also a literary legacy and a cultural legacy here on the lake that goes back to people like Cole Porter spending his childhood summers here, Lew Wallace writing part of Ben-Hur here, Booth Tarkington. There was music here, classical quartets would be brought up from Indianapolis and artists would come up here. So there is, in addition to Culver Academy's campus itself, which is a beautiful place that has an arts and academic component, of course. So Kurt was exposed to all of that, and I think it's safe to say, in fact, he himself infers that his later art of kind of the darkness and the sorrows that man encounters is really heightened and accentuated by the beauty and the sense of Eden and heaven that he experienced here on Lake Maxinkuckee.